Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to our space where we dive deep into the messy, magnificent truths of being human. Grab a cozy drink, settle in, and let's explore a story that might just echo in your own heart. Today I want to share a story with you. Shocking, difficult, but above all, a real story. For years I believed my partnership was solid, protected, eternal, but I made a mistake, one that shattered everything. I crossed a line, and today I live with that secret. When we first committed, I was in my mid-20s and they were in their early 30s. Everything seemed perfect. We built a life, had children, a home, regular getaways, a stable life. But behind that facade, something else was brewing. Distance, wariness, silence. For some years, my partner was absorbed by their work. They'd come home late. We barely ate together. They didn't look at me the way they used to. I felt like a shadow. Routine had eroded everything. Passion, thoughtfulness, tenderness. I felt terribly, achingly alone. It was during those dark times that a close relative of my partner entered our lives. They had always been friendly, but recently they seemed more attentive. They'd ask me how I was doing. They'd compliment me, genuinely see me, and that was it. They saw me. It was like someone opening a window in a room that had been closed for too long. We started talking more often. First through messages, then face to face. They made me laugh. They listened. They made me feel alive. I knew I was crossing a line, but I couldn't turn back. One day, while my partner was away on a work trip, this relative came over to help me with something around the house. The children were away, and we were alone. They held me close, and I gave in. That night I surrendered to what I felt. It wasn't just desire. It was a mix of longing for attention, for human warmth. But when I woke up, I was overwhelmed by guilt. My partner's relative was also shaken. We decided not to let it happen again, but the damage was done. Partner sensed something was off. They confronted me. I denied it at first, but my eyes betrayed me. They pressed, and then I broke. I told them everything. They froze, then left. It didn't come back for 2 days. Our connection was never the same. Tried therapy to understand, to heal. My partner wanted to understand why, and I wanted to understand why I had needed to exist elsewhere, why I had let that crack open. Today, almost a year has passed. We're still together, but every day is a battle. The relative has cut ties and moved away. They never contacted me again, and I live with the weight of that night, a secret I shared too soon, a secret that haunts me. But I don't regret speaking up, because deep down, this story is about someone who felt forgotten, someone who just wanted to be loved, seen, touched. And I know many of you will understand, not because you've experienced something similar, but because you've known that emptiness. No, I'll never forget the days that followed the confession days, when I didn't even know how to stand before my children, how to make them food, how to look at myself in the mirror. My partner, for their part, wavered between anger, silence, and quiet pain. They didn't yell, they never raised their voice, but their gaze said it all. That gaze which I once loved so much had become a mirror of suffering. I remember one evening, 3 weeks after everything blew up, they came home late. I was waiting in the kitchen. They sat in silence, then asked, "Did you love them?" My stomach clenched. I didn't know what to say. I didn't love them the way I loved my partner. No. But I loved what they had made me feel. I loved that sensation of being alive, of no longer being invisible. So I answered honestly, "No. But they gave you what you no longer did." That sentence, I can still see it hanging in the air like a blade. It wounded them, and I collapsed. We cried together in silence. That was the beginning of a slow, uncertain reconstruction. Couples therapy wasn't a magic solution. At first, my partner didn't want to go. They said it was useless. But deep down, they wanted to understand. They wanted to know if there was something to save. We met a therapist specializing in relationship crises. She welcomed us without judgment, and little by little, we learned to put words to our pain. What surprised me most was discovering that my partner had also been suffering for a long time. They felt inadequate at home, overwhelmed by expectations, by their role as a parent, a partner, a pillar. They had retreated into work so they wouldn't collapse. And I, in my need for attention, hadn't seen anything. We weren't the only ones who suffered. My partner's family noticed the distance between us. At first, they were discreet, but then questions started. Why were we both so distant? Where did we find happiness? What happened to our love? Their questions hurt, especially coming from my partner's parents. I could see the disappointment, the inability to understand in their eyes. It was as if my mistake had stained not only my story, but theirs too. There were relapses, days when we didn't speak, when we slept back to back like strangers. But there were also small moments of hope. A shared coffee in silence, a faint smile, a hand brushed across the table, tiny gestures, but immense for us. Today I can say I am a different person, not because of the mistake I made, but because I learned. I understood that the human heart is fragile, that a partnership can't survive without communication, without attention, without presence. I understood that you can't always be strong, that you need to know how to ask for help, to talk, to cry, to scream if you must. I'm not proud of what I did, but I don't want to hide anymore. Because behind every mistake, there's a truth, and mine is that of a person who just wanted to exist. And now, beautiful soul, I turn the mic over to you. What echoes within you? What secrets have you kept or revealed? What truths have set you free? Share your stories in the comments below. Let's keep this circle of honesty and healing going. Remember, your light, no matter how hidden, can always break through the cracks. Thank you for joining me on this journey of raw authenticity. If this story touched you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Together, we all continue to explore the depths of human experience and the strength that comes from embracing our true selves. Till next time, walk bravely in your truth.